tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Wouter Hol. I am currently working as the HRD for Adidas Amsterdam. I'm in this role since almost 2 years. In July, it'll be 2 years. Be going through quite an interesting change journey along the way. Maybe we can talk about that in a second a bit more extensively. I've always been in HR, so I've started my career also in Adidas actually in 2004 at the global headquarters in Germany. Then moved to China, then back to Germany, then left the organization. Why did I leave Adidas at the time? Is because it was my first company, and I was under the assumption that there was so much more else to see. So I moved to Danone. I moved back to the Netherlands. I'm originally Dutch, actually, and joined their early life nutrition and medical division, and did different roles there in HR as well. So I worked in OD, in project management, and in my last role I was HR director. And then I got an opportunity to go back because I always kept my network. I always loved the brand. I used to be an athlete myself, rowing and track cycling. So I always had passion for sports. So it wasn't very difficult to come back. But I came back obviously in a complete different location and in a different role. And other than that, so that's my professional. It's only 50% right of me. I also have a private life.
Yeah.
So I'm married. I have 2 boys, and I live in a beautiful village called Jisp, which is in the northwest of the Netherlands. No one has heard of it.
Nope, never heard of it. Nope.
It only has 900 inhabitants, approximately. So I commute every day to Amsterdam by car, which is very, very feasible. I start real early to avoid traffic, and in the evening or in the late afternoon, I drive back, and then it's a lottery how long it takes to get home.
Yeah, depends. Yeah, every day is different. I know that. I live in Flanders myself. Have to do Brussels, Ghent, Brussels, Antwerp sometimes. So yeah.
Oh, good luck. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we can state that you've been in HR for quite some time already.
Yeah.
And I feel like HR has been changing. That's kind of the point of these interviews as well.
Yeah.
What kind of big changes are happening right now at Adidas in HR? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. Quite a bit, actually. What I see, and that has to do not just with HR, because I don't always think HR changes from within, right? It also depends on what external forces are leaning on you that makes you change. But we had a big one 18 months ago, which was a new CEO. And the new CEO, Kasper Roosted, has driven quite a bit of change in the sense that he expects the HR function to deliver things such as support the organization with driving its strategy, creating the new, right? That's the strategy within Adidas. And it comes a lot down to governance. So how do we govern the function of HR? How do we ensure that we have our basics in place? Yeah. And then we talk about data, management of our systems. So really the fundamentals of our HR organization. And then also how do we take it one step further, and how do we ensure we retain the right people and we find the right people? That's ultimately where it comes down to, right? So we've invested a lot in developing global programs and really calling out what a talent is, yeah? And really calling out what good leadership is, and really calling out what performance management means. And those type of things we haven't really done enough, if you want, in the past, or not as clear as we do today. So I think that is a change in itself. Yeah. So by calling out these things I just mentioned, but also if you take it, that's the short-term change. If you take the longer to mid-term change, what you've seen a lot in Adidas, and I think you've seen it in many other companies, is that you went from an HR generalist role into more clear expert functions, right? So before, I still remember when I was working at Adidas, I was doing recruitment, I was doing admin, I was doing a bit of talent, I was doing a bit of learning training. I would just hit the whole shebang. And these days, it's much clearer in terms of what is your scope of responsibility. I do rewards. Okay, along rewards, this is what belongs to it. I do recruitment or talent acquisition, as we call it in Adidas. It's very clear what it means. Yeah. I do HR services, really clear what I do. I'm an HR manager or I'm an HR business partner. That's where it gets a bit tricky, you know. What is...
Yeah, because they have to do everything for a specific business unit, probably.
Exactly. So you're responsible for a business unit, but what the hell does that mean, right? I don't do this administrative piece anymore. I don't recruit anymore. I'm not really involved in learning anymore. In talent, yes, but to what extent? Yeah. So where are these different cutoff points? That is a very interesting conversation of what is this new role of an HR business partner? Yeah, as such.
Yeah, and so can you tell us a little bit more about that? What was it before that role of HR business partner, and what is it now? Because I can understand that if I'm an HR business partner now at Adidas, if I understand correctly, all of a sudden there's like 10 people I have to, double check my IDs with, the comp and ben guy, the, talent acquisition guy, that girl, potentially, probably. So how do you, guide that transformation? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, to your first question is how was it before and how is it now? Before, way more general, now way more focused and specialized, if you would want, right? And the way it works, or the way we make that happen, is that we call it green and blue boxes, right? So the green boxes are those who support the different functions. Yeah. So you would have, I don't know, global operations. Yeah. You would have someone dedicated to that. And then you have these blue boxes that cut across the different categories. That's, for example, your rewards function, or that's your talent function. Yeah. That cut across. So whereas in the past, every function would have a different talent strategy and a different way of looking at leadership and all of those different things, and therefore creating a lot of confusion in the organization and a lot of extra work and lack of efficiency, we now say everything that comes out of a blue box, so that cut across the different, businesses, applies to all businesses, right? So we no longer have a conversation, oh, this is what you do in this part of the business, and that is what you do in the other part of the business. That doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, and that is, I think, the biggest change and the biggest efficiency that we've achieved and clarity that we've achieved for the HR organization. It takes more time to align up front. It takes more time to have conversations. You need to involve more people. You need to manage more stakeholders. But once you're clear, you move faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was compared with Dutch politics. Yeah. It takes them a year to build a government, but once it's set, they're able to move faster. Yeah, we won't take a year, and well, maybe in some cases we do actually, depending on how large the topic is. But it takes time to align and agree, and a lot of people see this as oh, come on, let's just move, right?
Yeah.
But let's think this through first, and let's do this in collaboration with the different stakeholders that can make decisions, and then move fast. Yeah, and then we'll move faster.
And how do you then ensure that you as an HR team, that you're agile enough? Because wanting to be right the first time and creating big business cases and taking too much time, definitely, since you're working on the governance side of things, checking which data is where, all that stuff, isn't that slowing you down a bit too much? Are you agile enough?
This is a very good question, because we actually talked about that, agility, right?
Yeah.
It depends on the project, I guess. You cannot just sort of trial and build with a whole new performance model or a new leadership framework, right? That needs to be, in my view, right from the beginning, those fundamental things, right? And then you can try it for a while, and then maybe you make some modifications down the line, but you will not change it in its essence and its basics, right? So maybe that is the answer. So let's agree on what is the basics of that, whatever you're developing, and then indeed have an agile mindset. I mean, our whole organization is about agility, right?
Yeah.
We're also active in the fashion market, and that just changes from one day to the other. So you need to have that level of agility. But I think that is the fine balance that you need to find from doing it differently in all kinds of parts of the businesses versus doing it in collaboration and holistically all the same right from the start. But then how do you keep it agility? Yeah, maybe we are less agile, if you want, or I would call it less chaotic.
Yeah.
Structured. But I think the agility sits in the moments in time where you sort of have a check and balances, right? Because if you find out that things that are not working, and we will find out, and we are finding those out, of course there is a mindset to say, okay, let's sit down and fix this. Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, we have some system challenges. Yeah. Okay, let's sit down and fix this, and then move on. Yeah. So we definitely not have the idea that everything needs to be 100% right, but it needs to have a certain level of quality before we go in, because that sort of ensures us that it will last and remain, yeah, in the business, and it's not just trying something and see if it works.
And you feel like the current matrix structure you have in HR, do you feel like that's the end game, or do you feel like there's steps to be set from here on?
From an organizational standpoint, you mean?
Yeah, from an organizational standpoint, but specifically for the HR function. Do you feel like this is a perfect model and that it's going to stay like this forever? I mean, it probably isn't, but or do you feel like you could grow into something else even?
Yeah, that is an interesting question. I'm sure everything will evolve over time. Yeah. Again, you know, if nothing would change anymore, yeah, probably will stay like this, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I just said before. What are the external forces on your organization that ultimately make you change, right? And that could be anything. So, the answer to your question, yes, it will not be the end game. It will change, but how it will change and towards it will change, I don't know. One big change for sure that we're also facing is digitalization.
Yes.
And digitalization for our function. Digital is a massive topic for Adidas, right? We want to do 4 billion euros by 2020 in digital. That's quite a bold statement to make, and it requires us to think digital. But what the hell what does it mean to think digital, right? There's all these words that get thrown around. So we need to understand what it means, but that is definitely something where I see the HR function, at least in Adidas, but I would say in general, because if you look at LinkedIn, you see all these posts on digital HR and stuff.
Yeah.
That's definitely where we go to, right? Everything will be, or the vast majority of our function will be managed, governed, led in a digital manner. Yeah. And especially data is a big part of that. Yeah. Everything. Yeah.
And while we were digitalizing, what do you think the role of HR is in that digital world? So I know that right now you're at the verge of the transformation, but after a while you will have transformed. So what will that role of HR look like after a while?
Yeah, I think that is the $1 million question.
That's why I'm asking you. I don't know.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what we all struggle with. And honestly, I don't think we need to develop towards something, because that something will always be something different as well, right? To your point, to agility. But what I want to say again is that yes, we will become more digital. And how do we take the organization on board with this? To give you an example, what does digital mean? We have, as we call it, people one view. So everything about, if you're a leader or if you're just an employee, everything you can find about yourself online. Your personal file, your talent data, your pay slip, your rewards data, everything. Yeah, that is new. In the past, you would pick up your phone and call your HR manager. Hey, I have a question about my whatever pay slip or about this training. Can you help me? You know, that will become different. So digital, in another way, you could say, make people more responsible in a certain way for their own development and for their own hunger for information in the organization, because there's so much available, and structure that in such a way that you can actually find it, right?
Yeah.
Because how many internets and how many online pages companies have where people just get lost, right? So there's a lot of effort to be done in not just making things digital, but how do we make it in such a way that people can actually see a benefit out of it, and work and use it to their best of their abilities, and therefore have even maybe a better employee experience than they used to have before.
Yeah, and that's the irony about digital. It makes sure that the HR function actually becomes more people orientated, because all of the administrational stuff is in the system, so to speak. And almost the same goes for leadership. I think in a digital world, ironically, leaders need to be more humane and need to have a bigger, let's say, a bigger span of their attention should go to all the human stuff of the business. Do you prepare your leaders for that journey right now? Anything you do on that front, making them more digital, guiding them in that digital leadership story?
Hmm. Well, so to specifically get our leaders ready, for our digital era or something, like there's no program I can sign up for today. Hey, I want to sign up for, how do I become more digital, or how do I sort of cope with that situation? But what you do see though, to give you an example of People One View, yes, there's trainings. Yes, there's HR supporting the business to make sure you can use this in this way or such way. Definitely. Yeah, that's definitely part of the journey. And that's also part of our responsibility to equip the organization with the right mindset when it comes down to all these digital tools and programs. But also, let's not forget that Adidas, it's a relatively young company. Our target group is very young. The people we employ are relatively young. And it doesn't mean, we don't welcome more senior people, because we also have a lot of senior people as well in our organization. But this digital mindset, these digital natives, this is already quite well present in our organization.
Yeah, okay.
So it almost comes natural, and I would say it's even an expectation from this workforce that we are digital. Yeah, it's actually the opposite. So if things are not digitalized, or people still need to go through different routes to get their information, they will complain, and rightfully so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it even works the other way around. There's a bigger hunger to be more digital, delivering, versus the other way around, that we need to drag people, to become more digital, if you want.
All right. No, that actually makes a lot of sense. Definitely, if that's your demographic, How about the softer side of things for those leaders? So I get that you don't have to train leaders in becoming more digital, because they have a drag from everywhere already.
Yeah.
But maybe you need to support them in the soft stuff a little more. How do you coach? How do you give feedback? That sort of stuff. Do you have programs there?
Yeah. So for sure, and yes, so we have programs all over the company around. So and that's actually an interesting question, because they also get back to the role of HR, right?
Yeah.
And this business partner, what we talked about in the beginning, what is this role? And a large part of that role is to support leaders in driving their organization in these digital times, and by being a better coach, or by being a better mentor, or by being a better facilitator, or being a better whatever, what we define, right? That is where the HR business partner plays a critical role. Yeah. And we have our leadership framework. Yeah, we have a brand new leadership framework, which is a very powerful set of behaviors that we expect all of our leaders in the organization, no matter if you're in China versus the US versus Latin versus Western Europe, live. Yeah. So we've clearly defined what good leadership looks like, and we all hold our leaders accountable to that level of leadership behaviors. Yeah. But to come back on that business partner, a large part of that role is to guide leaders in that, right, and to support them in executing that leadership framework, or whatever it is that we feel is important as an organization. And where we've now put focus on is a few things. To give you an example, we expect all of our HR managers, so that have an active part in the business and a part of the business, to be present at the table, as we call it, right? So to be at the table, full stop. If you're not at the table, what is your role? Yeah. So that's your priority number one, get at the table. And then how do you get at the table? You need to have relevance to be at the table, right? You're just not sitting at the table for the sake of being HR. You need to have relevance. You need to add value. And how do you add value? And where we find that there's a lot of ask from management is to support them in all of their organizational and people-related topics. Yeah. So not where's my pay slip, but how do I create a high-performing team? Or is my team in a forming stage, or is it in a norming stage, or is it in a storming stage? So what stage am I in, and what is important to take notice of being in that stage? That's where I need strong HR people to drive those discussions and conversations. And in order to do that, they need to be equipped to do so. Yeah. And some are not, because some are, they're holding on to what the old role of HR was, and for them it's very difficult to let go. Yeah. But others, they're really open to it. They say, oh, finally I can be that strategic business partner. Yeah. And finally I can just work a little bit more conceptually. And that's how we also prepare the HR organization to say, okay, this is your new role, yeah, to sit at the table and to drive people and org-related conversations and lead those conversations to a large extent. So let's equip you with those capabilities, yeah. So there's a whole HR academy built up in Adidas that equips the entire HR organization to create or sort of develop those capabilities with them. It can be coaching, it can be facilitation, it can be digitalization, for example. Yeah, all of these different things are part of that curriculum that we offer as part of this HR Academy to equip our HR organization to drive these conversations.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And does that mean that you recruit differently for HR managers as well?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, it's of course, if you then it depends on your team, right?
Yeah.
What you don't only need these conceptual people, right? Let's also be very clear. But absolutely. So the way you would recruit maybe in the past is you would just look for a great HR generalist, yeah. But now I would look more for, okay, what has this person first of all achieved, obviously, but also what are some of the things that he or she has really driven together with the business, yeah. Instead
business
of
acumen.
Sorry?
They need more business acumen.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of, hey, this is a performance framework, let's execute it. Yeah. No. What has come out of the business that you've picked up on team or org related topics and that you've driven forward, yeah, and have achieved concrete results? That would be always one of the first questions I would ask.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And so let's circle back real quick to the leadership model. I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah. What do you think is the biggest difference between the new leadership model and the old leadership model? Anything specific that you want to mention there?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that we have one leadership model. Yeah. Okay. And not multiple.
Okay, yeah.
So we don't have one for global operations. We don't want to have one for Asia anymore. We don't have one for LATAM. We have one leadership model that applies across and cuts across all different continents and categories and businesses. Yeah. So that makes it very easy. Whenever you go to China, you talk about one model. Yeah. And that's one example I gave in the very beginning. We have made sure to involve all right stakeholders from the region, from the different functions, from the different expertise, the different hierarchical levels, to ensure that we capture all of these things and make a powerful leadership framework out of this, yeah, or a behavioral model that we would look at. So that is the biggest difference. We have one model, and everyone speaks about the same model, and everyone is assessed against the same model. Everyone is hired against the same model. Yeah, potential ratings are looked at and compared to the same model. So in the past, you would say, okay, a talent from Asia, okay, is a talent, but based on what criteria and principles? Yeah, now that's clear. Yeah, so you have more of a like-for-like conversation, if you want, with people about people.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. And maybe with it back to the general transformation of HR, what kind of skills are you developing right now? You must follow some training. You must be interested in some kind of new knowledge. What are you looking for right now?
You mean me personally?
Yeah. So you personally.
Yeah. So I've a few things actually. I'm a big believer of mentorship or mentoring. Yeah. So I do that. So I have a mentor in the organization that mentors me, and I do that for different kind of purposes. First, to better understand myself, but to also have frank and open conversations that and show a level of vulnerability maybe that you don't necessarily show elsewhere. And also to learn from someone's experience that has been going through phases like this, either in life or in their career before, right? It's very enriching to speak to these people and to understand, well, actually this type of emotion I'm having now, this anxiety or proudness or happiness or whatever, is totally normal.
Yeah.
Or I feel super challenged by this situation. Well, guess what? Other people feel too, or they've been going through this, and this is what their experience has been. So,
is that an internal or an external person to Adidas?
an internal person.
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah, in my case, yeah. So that's one thing I believe in it and I invest in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, to take one step back, I'm definitely not someone who believes, you need to do tons of things to get better. You need to be super clear about what you need to get better at. Yeah. And that already is a journey in itself.
True.
Because we can always say, oh yeah, I need to be better at whatever, presenting or leading or managing. But what does it mean? Yeah. Let's take a step back. What is it? Yeah. Is it because I show anxiety in certain situations, or is it because every time I'm in that type of situation, I don't feel safe, or what is it? Yeah. So that's what I try to invest a lot of time in. So to understand myself first, and what are the areas that I need to work on, yeah, or what are my strong points that I can make stronger? Because I'm also a big believer of that, right? Same as in sports. If you look at athletes, yes, they make their weaknesses or development areas, they make them up to an acceptable level, but they would really focus on becoming stronger what they're good at. Yeah. You can take a tennis player and he's really good at his service. He will make sure that he improves that even further, because it turns out to be a real weapon. But okay, so long story short, to come back to your question. So mentorship is definitely something. Continue to look yourself in the mirror, being self-reflective, being super humble, yeah, in how you do things. And every time when you've sort of landed or completed a larger project, take a step back and say, okay, what went well and what didn't go well, and what could be better, right? Those 3 questions, very simple questions, and then work from there again.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's number 2 I do, always to check back in after you've done a mission, basically, yeah, to understand what could have been done better. And the third thing is for my personal development, is surround yourself by people that are more or less in the same boat. Yeah. So to give you an example, I'm heading up an HR function in a location. I'm the number 1 in HR in that location, right? The location is approximately 1,000 people. So I get to deal with questions or topics that I cannot discuss with another senior HR person because there is none. Yeah. So therefore, I built myself that support network, if you want, in the organization that I can go to sort of, hey, just pick up the phone in the evening and say, I have this topic, can we talk about it? What will you do? This is what I'm struggling with. How do you see it? To give it a different vision and angle. And I always get stuff out of those conversations where like, yeah, I can do something with this. I can move on again, or, I can take it a step forward. So that's number 3. So how do what people in the organization I can make my trust partners, in these type of topics. And of course I go to trainings and stuff, but that is only, 5% of how you really grow, in my view. But anyway.
And is that your view on learning and development in a broader sense as well? Does your company move towards a more mentorship, instant feedback kind of form of learning and development, stopping with the big programs, everybody has to follow those 100 courses, but going like find people you can trust, find mentors, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. If that's really a company thing, I would say to some extent, yes. But it's not that the 3 things I just described are not, part of a super structured program.
No.
Yeah.
But they could be someday.
Sorry?
They could be someday.
Yeah. For example, mentorship definitely is. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So but you need to be self-starting. It's not saying, hey, I want to have a mentor. Okay. I have here one for you. That doesn't always work with that. But I want to do mentorship. I think this person could be a great mentor. Let's have a conversation. Why do you think he or she is a good mentor? What do you want to get out of it? Is mentorship really the answer to that, or is it more coaching, or is it more that? Oh yeah, it could actually be more this and that. Okay, well then the concept of mentoring might not be applicable to this, right? Okay, that's a straight win right there if you can have that conversation as an HR person with someone.
Yeah. All right. Wouter, maybe a final question on my side. Would you have any final advice for HR that's going through that transformation right now, more digitalization, more people function and administration function? Would you have some advice for those people?
Yeah, I guess so. But hey, that's just my advice.
Sure.
So the number one thing, don't lose your foundation and your basics out of sight. Yeah. It's all great digitalization and it definitely has a lot of benefits. But don't get carried away. Please ensure to focus on your basics and get those things done right. That's number one. If it's your payroll or your reward or whatever, HR services, admin, those kind of things. And the second thing is, I always use the example of flying, right? Whenever you board a plane, they give you these instructions, and talk about oxygen mask, right? And I always find it so, disturbing that you first need to put your oxygen mask before you do it of your child, right?
Yeah.
Your basic instinct will be to put it first on your child and then on yourself. But hey, if I'm gone, I cannot take care. So that type of thing. So an HR function needs to, our role is to serve and support the business. Yes, that's our number one role. That's why we're here, right? That's what is expected of us. But we need to be able to take care of ourselves. So whenever we talk about a framework or a performance standard or whatever program we have, does it, do we really live it ourselves? And do we really make it work in our own function before we make it work somewhere else? Yeah, I find it so important, because otherwise it can become almost, hypocritical or a fake at some point. If your HR function is not delivering itself on those topics, how can you expect the business to do that? Yeah. Or how can you ensure you ask the right questions? Yeah, and how do you ever get to the real bottom of that thing if you don't use it yourself? Yeah, so take care of yourself first is my second one. And HR these days, and that's especially when I was starting my career in HR, it was quite simple. HR journalism, you do basically everything. Yes, there was a bit of recruitment. Yes, there was a bit of learning, whatever. Maybe even a little bit of talent. But the bulk of things was within in HRM. These days, it's a different ballgame. Especially when you work at like a large stock exchange company like Adidas with 60,000 employees and a massive HR function. You have a lot of choice, and you could sort of kill yourself in making choices. But again, coming back to my first point, focus on your basics. Build your basics in the beginning of your career. So even if you're a master graduate, don't bother if you work in the HR services producing documents for 6 months or a year or 18 months. Yeah, seriously. If you understand what documents are needed and how they're produced, and it just teaches you so much about efficiency, about governance, about compliance, about what type of documents, about a basic relationship between the company and individual through an employment contract. It all sounds so so boring. But at the end of the day, that is ultimately where everything is based upon. Yeah, all your talent programs are nice, but they're based on that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of digital companies.
Yeah, flourish.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of digital companies that do exactly the same, because they let you work in the service department of their organization first. So you really understand the customer, understand their needs, understand what's vital, what isn't vital. And that makes you deliver better services, better software products, better, afterwards. So.
And I'm a massive believer of that. I mean, I started my career, also I entered in customer service. When you understand how you can sort of deal with a client that goes mental, just shouts down the telephone, and what it does to you emotionally and how you deal with that and what kind of reactions it provokes within you. I mean, you cannot get much worse, right? I've never been shouted at inside my organization, for example. So if you manage to go through that, those basic things, then I think, you just equip yourself with a good fundament. It's like building a house. Yeah. First.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I agree.
And how do you build a house is by building a good fundament. And it's the same with your career. Your career is a house ultimately. Yeah. And if you start off with doing all the fancy stuff in the beginning, okay, maybe you find your way as a consultant, but if you really become a well-rounded, I don't know, VP HR ultimately, you need to have those experiences, in my view, to be credible and to be efficient and to be good.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I can definitely see your point. Yes, definitely. All right. Good. Wouter, thank you very much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I wish you the best of luck in all the transformations to come.
Thank you.
I guess we'll see each other soon again, right?
Thanks, Arne, for providing the opportunity, and have a good day.
Yeah, you too, Wouter.
All right. Bye-bye.